would like to commend the organizers for bringing all the relevant stakeholders together to discuss this very important topic. Some of the Finnish companies, such as globally known players like Metso and Outotec, are also present here. Finland is here to share its experiences and best practices and to discuss a way forward focusing on sustainability, safety and economic growth. Thanks.
Thank you, Kimmo. Our final speaker is His Excellency Jan Lundin, Ambassador of Sweden to Serbia. Jan has been Ambassador to Serbia and Montenegro since July 2016. He actually began his diplomatic career serving in Belgrade back in '84. Apologies, Jan, for that. And also I see was posted here between 2001 and 2006, so a long history of representing Sweden in Serbia. Welcome.
So, Henrik VIII told his wives, I shan't have you for long. And in this spirit, I will try to do this quickly. But I would first like to say that I'm honored to stand here and to represent my country, my mining country. And I'd like to thank TGI for bringing us together here today and for this opportunity. This is a very timely conference. Maybe a disclaimer as well. I am not related to Lundin Mining. So don't come to me. However, I certainly support Swedish mining, including Lundin Mining, so that's fine. But I'm not put here for that reason. Could have been, maybe. First I'd like to state that I've been in this country nearly every year since the mid-'80s, and I'm very pleased to stand here at a time which I would define and discuss mining at a time which I would define as the rebirth of Serbian industry. Serbian industry has been through tough decades, including wars, globalization, transferring from a socialist economic model to a market-based economic model, and it's been extremely tough. It is extremely tough, but I believe that mining is part of the answer to the future of the industrial future of Serbia, and I'm sure you agree with me. Coming from a mining country, Sweden, I also firmly believe in the importance of mining for industry, like the one we are seeing emerging now here in Serbia. Actually, Swedish mining has medieval roots. It's always been part of our building the economy, and you wouldn't see all the Swedish export items such as Volvo, Scania, trucks, what have you, had there not been good steel in mining and good metals, which is basis for these industrial projects. And I come from the Swedish Ruhrgebiet. You heard about the Ruhrgebiet in Germany, maybe it's also mining and an industry district, and I come from the Swedish one, it's called Bergslagen. And I'm from a city which is called Karlskoga. It's a small city. There's a company there which is well known, Bofors. It produces arms, weapons systems. But it started with the mining many hundred years ago, because the waterways are good in my district. You can easily transport heavy stuff such as metals, ore and iron. And this was done, and it was gradually converted into more valuable things. So we started by exporting the iron, and then we started by exporting stuffs that are made of iron. And my city still bears the traces of this. Bofors figured out, actually first we invited Belgians to Sweden. This was, I think, in the 17th century, and the Belgians helped us to understand how you make iron in an efficient manner. These were the Wallons. Then after a few hundred years, we wanted to do even better, so we started to look at how the Krupp family made steel. And suddenly we figured out how to do even better steel than the Krupp family did. And this was the 19th century. So once we figured that out, we could figure out how to do very good guns. So this is what happened in my city. So Bofors is the Swedish Kragujevac, you could say. And today, looking at Bofors, it's not a big employer anymore in my city, but it's still there. It's a very efficient employer. It produces missile systems and the arms of the future, electric rail guns. But we also have other companies which are spin-offs of Bofors, such as Nobel Biocare. Maybe some of you have the result in your mouths because they're a world-class producer of dental implants. And they are now leaving metals and starting to do it based on ceramics. But there is a continuum here, starting in the medieval times with iron production and mining and ending up with dental implants and over the way of guns. And I think this can happen in any country, and it can certainly happen here more than it has until now. And it starts with mining. So I can only welcome what I see in terms of your deposits of not lignite, but lithium, to quote your Prime Minister, and many other things. So let me say a few more concrete words on Swedish mining, however. We have 16 active mines, much less than they used to be, but still very efficient, and across the country, employing 8,400 people. And I'm sure you heard about Swedish mining giants such as LKAB, Boliden, and Lundin, who are active in Sweden and all over the world, with interest also in Serbia and the wider region. In addition to mining companies, Sweden is well known as one of the largest mining equipment suppliers in the world. Some of them are well established here in Serbia and in the region, such as Epiroc, ABB, SKF, and Sandvik. I'd like also to mention Ericsson, because the 5G systems being produced by Ericsson have definite relevance also for the mining industry. If we're talking remotely controlled mining equipment, for instance, Ericsson is in the middle of that as well. And it's very important and very timely that Serbia is focusing on 5G. This is not a telecoms conference, so I won't go into detail on that. But still, it connects to this as well. We have 3 mining regions which are rich in iron, copper, and gold. Furthermore, we deliver approximately 90% of iron within the European Union, 90%. Devedeset. And are one of the largest suppliers of lead, zinc, copper, and gold within the European Union. With Serbia and this region, I believe we have many geological similarities. Our exploration permits cover in Sweden only 4% of our land surface, and likewise potential for minerals mining in Serbia is still to be developed, put it that way. New methods are opening up for new discoveries in a much more efficient way, and previously mentioned Swedish mining companies are extremely important in the equation of more efficient, digitized, and safer mining and exploration, which respects the human, the environment, and the local culture. This leads me on to the Swedish minerals strategy, which focuses on areas such as social acceptance for mining. The Laponians are not always happy, I could say. And I think there are similarities to Canada in that, maybe Australia as well, in that. I'm not sure about the Welsh. A greater resource efficiency, enhanced dialogue and cooperation between relevant stakeholders, competence, skills development, and partnerships between academia, industry, and government. So, with this said, I want to highlight that we are open to collaboration with Serbia, Southeast Europe, and the European Union, and we want to ensure that we are together enabling better prerequisites for good new mining projects. We are also active. As some of you know, back in June of this year, the Embassy of Sweden, along with the Embassy of Finland, Business Sweden, and local partners such as the Serbian Ministry of Mining and Energy, the Serbian Chamber of Commerce, and also the Nordic Business Alliance, hosted a 4th annual European Mining Academy. The conference gathered participants from the mining industry across Serbia, Sweden, and other parts of Europe who discussed important topics such as creating sustainable mining industry through partnerships and how Serbia's mining can contribute to a successful Europe. We hope to have another opportunity next year to showcase Serbian, Swedish, and European expertise in this area. And I'm sure that this conference too will serve as an excellent platform for enhanced partnerships and collaboration dialogues among participants. I wish you all a great day and a good panel discussion further on in the day. Hvala.
Thank you very much, Sian. So we have still a little bit of time for questions and answers. So I think we're due to finish in 10 minutes before the next session. I'd like to kick off the Q&A with a question about something called the Fraser Institute for Index of Mining Investment Attractiveness. This is something that I've become aware of over the last few years, attending different conferences and attending country events. And it strikes me that most of the countries represented here are represented in the top 10 globally. This is an index that draws upon about 300 industry leaders, and it's largely, the ratings are based on the regulatory system and policy perception as a way of rating how companies are perceived to score in terms of being attractive to mining investment. And Serbia is, I don't know exactly what number Serbia is at, but it's not in the top 10 anyway. So I was going to start with Kati, if that's okay, and ask you what the Canadian government has done to improve its attractiveness and what advice it would give Serbia. I think it's on. I think they switch it on remotely.
Now it's on. Okay. Thank you for the question. I think there's several elements that point to Canada's attractiveness as a mining destination. So including things like political and social stability, the fact that we have long-standing democratic institutions, the rule of law, we have a strong commitment to transparency as well, and we have clear and predictable regulations. On the economic side, of course, we have a strong economy overall, but we also have a competitive and predictable tax regime, which I believe is the best, with the lowest overall taxes among the G7 countries, and we offer a stable overall economic framework. We also, as you were hearing from me earlier, we have, of course, a huge wealth in minerals, which in and of itself makes us attractive. And I agree with Ruth that there is, of course, an element of luck in that regard, but it also is how you then use those resources. And that includes through continuous investments in public geoscience. We also have seen continued investment in research and development and technology over the years, with the federal and provincial level governments investing to provide mining investors with educated labor, modern mining services and equipment providers, as well as research centers and so on. And I would also agree with my colleague Ruth about the importance of education, and Canada also has world-class educational institutions at the university level, but also at the college level, which are very closely tied to industry needs, so that mining sector can get the people that they need to work in the sector. And I would just note as well that over the last few years, we were noticing that Canada's ranking in the Fraser Institute standings was starting to stagnate a little bit. Other countries were catching up and doing better, which is good for those countries, of course. But that caused a whole reaction in Canada as well. And so there were extensive consultations between government and the provincial governments, with the industry, of course, and with local communities and the social sector, which led to some important developments. I was mentioning the new mining and minerals plan, but these mean that we have regulatory reforms that have taken place. We have better access to land. We made significant investments in public geoscience. We have a favorable fiscal policy. So all of those things have been very helpful in getting our rankings back up again. And I would note that in the latest rankings in 2019, we have 4 Canadian jurisdictions that are in the top 10. So Saskatchewan and Quebec, 2 provinces, and Yukon and Northwest Territories as well. So, and just to add that when Serbia was going through through the process of updating its mining law, of course, there were a number of Canadian companies present here that were involved in that process, as well as our Canada-Serbia Business Association, CANSI, and that's an area where we would be very happy to continue supporting Serbia's growth.
Thank you, Kati. And Ruth, I saw you nodding there. Is it a similar picture from Australia? Swap microphones, maybe.
Apologies for that. Yeah, no, absolutely, I was nodding. I mean, I think Australia and Canada have very, very similar experiences in this area. I want to congratulate Canada for having 4 jurisdictions in the top 10, because I know Australia has only 1, so we probably have some more work to do in that regard. But I think the key thing is that you use these kind of rankings to look at your policy settings and use that to drive some of the reforms that you need to make. One of the key things is you never stop needing to look at your sector, how you maintain competitiveness. You know, the world is continually changing and governments need to respond and adapt to that. And so just as Canada has its strategy, and I think some others talked about their strategy documents as well, we have a national resources strategy that is also designed to help us to move forward. And so I think there's a lot of probably similar experiences between all of the countries represented here in how you maintain that competitiveness and how you make sure that you are open to continual investment in these areas.
Now, Jan and Kimmo, I know that Sweden and Finland are likewise right up there in the Fraser Institute, but I wanted to ask you a different question actually about the resources curse, as some economists call it. This is whereby it's research undertaken whereby some economists believe that in some cases the abundance of natural resources leads actually to underperformance economically and a legacy which is difficult to address. You first, Jan. I think Sweden has had a mining industry for a long time, and you talked about how the technology and manufacturing diversified. I wonder if you could elaborate on that.
Yes, but it's a bit. It will be a bit impressionistic then, but I think what you're referring to, the resource, the Dutch disease, for instance, there was
That's
a case that if you have too much oil, it's going to influence your exchange rate. It will appreciate your exchange rate, so that the exchange rate will not enable exports of anything else but raw materials, basically, and you'll get stuck in that.